What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 554 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast hot tags of the week. We're going to be breaking down some different stuff that goes on in the world of pro wrestling through our eyes, the way that we normally do here. We got TV recaps, we got rumors, we got some scuttlebutt and some news and other kinds of stories. So we want you to join us on the ride and listen in on this podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Rob DeFelice.
Hi.
So, as we go along, we talk about what we want to talk about. We want to know what you have to say about this. So drop a comment below on YouTube, and while you're over there, do all the other good stuff that you normally do if you like a YouTube channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, hit the join button. That's a great way to get access to the members-only content, the same thing as you would on Patreon. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And if you want to pass this along to somebody who you think would be interested, hit the share button, but definitely leave a comment as well and chime in with your thoughts. So, let's just start getting into it here. Let's talk about, I don't know. Actually, maybe we need to frame some of these things through the TV talk this week, because there's two topics that are outside of the discussion, and then everything else I think is pretty much just, you know, byproducts of TV stuff. We're going to talk about that awful skateboard segment. We're going to talk about a trademark with some name changes and some title situations going around and around and around. Let's just go with, I guess, actually, let's do this before we get into the TV ones. Let's talk about Sasha Banks. There are still no official words about Sasha and or Naomi being released from WWE. One of the most recent council surveys actually listed the two of them being, like, you know, how would you rank the roster or something. So at least internally for that list, they are on the company payroll and they haven't been fired or, you know, let go or been able to successfully quit, as some people would want, like Roderick Strong. And at the same time, Sasha Banks is asking for $30,000 for any appearances that she makes that are non-wrestling. People that have been asking for her to wrestle in different promotions have been told that that can't happen until 2023, which would indicate that she's gone. Yet, in typical fashion, the way that these are handled these days, WWE is not saying that they are released. They are not saying that they are released. And unless we get some kind of a report from, you know, like a Meltzer or whatever, we just have to completely guess to see what's happening. But at the very least, the idea that she is asking for appearances outside of WWE means that there's a little bit more fuel to the fire. $30,000. That's a lot. But then again, she's Sasha Banks. So I get it. How are you guys feeling about this? You think it's too high of a number? You think this is way more of an indication that she's gone? You think that this is all about nothing?
The number it's a high number, but I think it's fine. I think we had heard of similar numbers for Braun Strowman and things like that, and I think Sasha is definitely worthy of a high asking price. As far as whether or not she's actually gone, I think this was like another okay. So if it looks like a duck and it quacks, you know, there's clearly things are adding up here, but there's just no confirmation. There's no confirmation from talent, no confirmation from WWE. I am of the thought that maybe they're still trying to work something out with them, and that's why they won't just say they're gone. But I think at this point, it's very likely that Sasha Banks and Naomi are out the door. They just have not officially said anything confirming it.
Yeah, it's still, again, too early and too difficult to say whether they are actually gone from the company, because you would imagine at least at this point, like, I don't know, it's about 2 months since the first time it was brought up about them leaving, so I think that they would have at least come up with something by this point. The number, but yes, that's a number that you'd expect to get for someone who is not just famous within WWE, but famous outside of it as well. Yeah, I don't think that's an excessive number for someone of her stature.
For the people that were complaining about that, I saw some people online like, oh, Sting isn't asking for this much or something. And, but you got to figure Sasha is a multi-time champion, one of the absolute top women that has ever been in WWE, is somebody who has been in Star Wars. So there is a crossover for people that are like, maybe they want to see her because of The Mandalorian. She wasn't in, 15 episodes of it or something, but she was still a Star Wars character. So, there is a huge market, of course, for that. We got San Diego Comic-Con coming up, and people are like, this is go down a side rabbit hole that I guess is more of a Fanboys Anonymous discussion, but check out fanboysanonymous.com, by the way. I have never been the type of person who is interested in like the autograph signings and everything. The conventions that I've been to, I've never once actually gone and gotten an autograph from anybody or, the picture photo op or something. But plenty people, that is their main thing. Like they will go to New York Comic-Con or, whatever it is. I don't know, Otakon or something. Yeah, any of those things or Star Wars conventions or whatever. They will go there specifically just to stand in line and meet these people and do nothing else. They will just wait in line, get 5 photographs and be like, I spent, $700 and look at these 5 pictures I took. So there is definitely a market for that. And of course, on top of that, Sasha Banks is a very attractive woman. So a lot of people are interested just in that regard. And I think that the $30,000 price, the question I have for it is, how are these people going to make money off of that? Because depending on how much they charge for each of those photos, I mean, you got to assume they're not going to charge $1,000,
So C2E2, which she was announced for, I believe, is $100 per autograph and photo combo.
So you got to get 300 people just to break even on that, which
I think you could.
It's not the craziest thing in the world, but I mean, how many more people are you going to get based off of all the other expenses that you need? Because they're paying for more people too. It's not just going to be you meet Sasha Banks and she's the only person sitting in a warehouse somewhere or whatever. They got all the other expenses and everything like that. So I'm curious, just out of a pure numbers side, how much these different conventions just rake in, because they got to be making the money. They keep doing it, I want to know how many millions and millions of dollars.
It's not just the money that you get from the convention, it's also the brand recognition and that aspect of it as well, because having a name like Sasha Banks appear on it means that there's more likely there's going to be tweeted around about on social media. She's got a huge following, so if she tweets about it, it means more people know about it. It means more people are likely to go or at least talk about it and generate some buzz for it. So it carries value beyond just how many people actually come in and get autographs with her.
Yeah, and the same thing for any other kind of thing. People will watch a TV show just because they like the main actor or actress in it, or we don't have Brock Lesnar on the card, so nobody's going to pay attention to the pay-per-view or something, So I don't at all, of course, disagree with the people that are trying to get her for appearances. And I don't disagree with her trying to charge a high, what seems like a high amount. Let's put it this way, $30,000 is more than I make in a year. So that seems like a crazy amount to me for one day's worth of work. But then again, I'm not this uber popular, famous person to be able to have that clout. So I think that this is one of those scenarios where it'll be interesting to see what happens if and when she starts taking these bookings. And if we see, some kind of more discussion on, okay, well, she's really stepping away from WWE and she's really hitting home her regular name and not the Sasha Banks name. And, she hasn't talked about it in wrestling things, or, somebody will go up to her at an appearance and they'll be like, when are you going to go back in the ring? And she'll be like, oh, that's not happening. That's the stuff I'm really interested to see the fallout for. Right now, just her charging for appearances that are non-wrestling.
Well, she's already booked for one.
For which one?
She's already booked for C2E2, like I was saying.
For C2E2, that's right.
That's
when's that coming up?
Being advertised there as Mercedes Renato. Which no obviously WWE. They does say that she, it notes Sasha Banks, but there's no mention of WWE at all. And that's August 6th and 7th, I believe. That's right around the corner.
And of course, they can, for anybody that's like, oh, they can't do anything like that. Like, they can. It's professional wrestler, Mercedes Varnado. They can't say, WWE superstar, but plenty of these conventions and stuff, they say former WWE superstar, whatever. And that's how they market things, I've been to like Monster Mania, for instance, and it's like former WWE superstar blank, and then you don't see any of their actual real name anywhere in the whole vicinity. But if you do get an opportunity to meet some people at like the lower conventions, I think it's actually kind of cooler than the ones that are the bigger things. Like, I've had way more discussions with people at like the Monster Mania convention. Piper was cool. Duggan was cool. Francine from ECW, she was cool. Talked to her for a little bit. But yeah, if that's your thing, check out the Sasha Banks C2E2 thing if you're going, and let us know what happened.
I guess it's worth also saying that Naomi had a brief... She's been more open as far as social media, like where she'll just tweet out a quote of like, if it costs you your happiness, it's too much. And she also had a brief exchange with Lindsay Dorado, who said, when are we going to do lucha things? And she said, ASAP. So, again, they're definitely out there. There's definitely something going on. It's just nothing concrete.
I hope it's a good lucha thing. But then that would include Kalisto. So, let's talk about some TV stuff. Let's bounce around here. Let's go to Monday Night Raw. Start things off chronologically here. Brock Lesnar kicking off the show, did a promo about hogs. For some reason, that was
fantastic.
I hated it.
This is my favorite thing of the week. Brock Lesnar's just like, and you're a hog, and I slaughter hogs on my farm. And then Paul Heyman comes out, and Lesnar almost immediately cuts him off just to go, hey, 3 little pigs. Oink, oink, oink. It's like total nonsense, total rambling, but everybody loves Cowboy Brock. Paul Heyman said he was going to teach Roman Reigns how to shove his hand up Brock Lesnar's ass. Right? Hard. It's just a good time. It ends with Alpha Academy coming out and Otis going through a table courtesy of Brock Lesnar. I thought it was good.
Caroline and I are cooking at the same time as this promo is going on, so I have the TV on pretty loud, and I'm in the kitchen, and I don't forget what we were cooking at the time, but I'm like stopping every once in a while, and I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like, and she's like, did he just say hog this, whatever? And then when we get to the part about, I'm going to stick his finger up his ass or whatever like that, she just gave me this look like this is your job. And I'm like, I know. Do you love or hate the promo, Cal?
I'm guessing you didn't even look for it, did you, Cal?
Well, and let's put it this way: it's not like I pay too much attention to any of the weekly television outside, in the WWE sphere of things. But I can pretty much confidently say from the YouTube clips that I did come across, it's the best thing that happened on all Monday Night Raw. So.
Absolutely, I can tell you that for a fact.
Well, generally speaking, this week the TV shows, I mean, how often have they been good, but at the same time, a lot of it felt like I was just like, why am I even bothering to watch? Like, a lot of vignettes, a lot of promos that really didn't accomplish anything. It's one thing if a promo, of course, is like, it's dragging his ass and you know exactly what they're going to say, but some of them are just like, literally they're talking about nothing and you're just wasting time. I think you probably could have watched all of Raw, all of NXT, and I'm assuming probably tonight on SmackDown we're going to get the same continuation of this. All of those 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours worth of material, you probably could have watched it in about 45 minutes and you wouldn't be missing anything.
Well, that's what Callum does. He just
I'm envious of everybody that does that. We were having a whole discussion about that the other day with some other writers that are just like, yeah, I can't watch Raw anymore. I just do this and whatever. And I'm like, I still hold myself to paying attention a little bit here and there, but I
always get a little unnerved whenever I look on the the Raw results, like winners grades and reaction on Bleacher Report, when I'm usually using that to pick up my stuff for like the power rankings or fantasy league and stuff like that, and see there in a 3-hour show there's 6 segments.
Yep.
No, it's like okay, sure, that's
when
fine.
You, because like I obviously John Ross Tapp puts out the format every week, and when you look at the breakdown of how much is actually happening in the 3 hours, it's insane. Like, you can, if you need to, you can go make a meal, you can go do whatever practically during these matches, because they take way too long. They take way too long.
But there's just, again, unfortunately not having to watch all of it, there's just so much crap on this entire show. Like, again, just, you'll have to attest to me whether like it actually was better in execution than what it sounds. But fucking Judgment Day trying to recruit Dominic Mysterio. Like, Carmella and Bianca Belair again, and it ended a fuck finish where Carmella wins, obviously by count out. But that means, what, are we getting a triple threat at SummerSlam? It's like, who cares about that? Ciampa playing second fiddle to The Miz.
To give context of this is the full breakdown that I wrote for Raw. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bullet points for a 3-hour show. It is. I'll read it verbatim because it'll only take me about a minute to read. Brock Lesnar opened the show with a promo about fighting Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Paul Heyman interrupted, followed by Theory, who is still looking to cash in Money in the Bank. Alpha Academy went after Lesnar, but Lesnar destroyed them. That's like 20 minutes. Finn Balor beat Rey Mysterio by pinfall. All you need to know. Carmella beat Bianca Belair by count out due to interference by Becky Lynch. Ciampa explained on Miz TV that he's been aligned with The Miz because he wants all the eyes to be on him, and The Miz commands that kind of attention. Logan Paul's challenge to fight The Miz at SummerSlam was reiterated. The Miz said if Paul doesn't want to team with him, he'll team with Ciampa instead. AJ Styles and Ezekiel beat The Miz and Ciampa by DQ. Alexa Bliss and Asuka defeated Doudrop and Nikki ASH by pinfall. Usos and Omos beat R-Truth and Street Profits by pinfall after a promo. Riddle and Bobby Lashley beat Rollins and Theory by pinfall with some help from Dolph Ziggler, who kicked Theory at the end of the show. That is 3 hours. And that's wow, you know? You don't need to get into the specifics about, like, the Judgment Day thing because it sucked. It was awful. It's, hey, Dominic, you should join us. Okay, well, we established that for like 3 weeks now.
The only thing you need to know is that they're doing another. 2002 clearly was a very big year for WWE because they're doing another 20-year celebration for Ray and MSG. That's what you got to take away from that segment.
I mean, you have to be in like absolutely hiding to nothing when the most notable thing that happened on the show, outside of obviously the good Brock Lesnar segment at the start of it, is Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, we've talked about Dolph Ziggler in the past. For anybody who doesn't know, we are varying degrees fan. Wow, there are a lot of ambulances and fire trucks going by right now. I am apologizing for that. Yeah, for instance, like Rob and I have been major fans of Ziggler over the years, but have gotten to the point where it's like, all right, we got tired of the "it should have been me" discussion, and eventually we got tired of just talking about him in general because he was doing a damn thing. I like the idea that he's a babyface feuding with Theory. I just don't understand why it's happening now when we've got this random rematch with Lashley. I kind of want them to just be like, yeah, you know what? We're not doing that at SummerSlam. And just do Theory versus Ziggler.
They might, because Lashley was supposed to do an open challenge. They had advertised it and everything, and then they got to Raw and they were like, yeah, fuck that. We're doing a tag team match. And by the way, here's Ziggler and Theory. And Ziggler was beating Theory at the house shows the weekend prior. And I was like, maybe that's by DQ and the results aren't saying it, but that makes no sense. And sure enough, my guess is he's going to do the "it should have been me, but now it's you, and I won't let you make the same mistakes that I made," or something to that effect. I'm interested in it because at this point, Ziggler is a fresher face than anyone else because we haven't seen anything.
And it's just the fact that I'm assuming Theory, of course, is going to beat Ziggler in the grand scheme of this. And then Ziggler's good in the ring. He'll be able to teach Theory some stuff. Like, I'm cool for a short feud at the very least between these guys. I don't want this to be something that carries on from now until day one or something. It doesn't have the legs for that, but I'm down for it. Ziggler's babyface is a little bit fresher, like you said. And curious where Robert Roode comes in here, because he was with Ziggler and they were going to potentially feud with Omos, and then that got, pushed away for 1 week.
Here's a dumb thing that they've added to Raw that I really like.
Just one?
They've reiterated the reintroduced the Mean Gene podium. And I really like that that's a thing that they're doing again. I hope we get more promos from there that are just like straight up promos and not interrupted.
Well, what do you guys think about the, I guess, confirmation at this point that we're going to get Miz and Ciampa versus Styles and Logan Paul?
What?
You don't think that that's what's going to happen?
No.
They're literally saying the Miz is going to team with Ciampa.
Yeah, it's absolutely going to happen.
Really? They can't just do a one-on-one with Miz and Logan Paul?
Because Logan Paul doesn't have the ability to do it on his own, yeah.
And that's WrestleMania next year.
Oh, fuck. God, you guys, that's really a bummer. I mean, like, I like Ciampa, I like AJ. Logan was good at WrestleMania, and this
I'd say Logan definitely has the ability. He was better than Dominic Mysterio in that match.
True.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, he can definitely do it, but yeah, I guess it's whoever does the media circus with AJ, I want them to go, all right, what was supposed to happen with Judgment Day? Because he went from being the centerpiece of that to just, I don't know, I guess I'll go tell the Miz he has small balls. I don't like that news, Tony, because I just wanted to see a one-on-one and move on.
I don't want to see a one-on-one. At least when you got at least you got Styles and Ciampa in the match.
You're gonna have to see a one-on-one at some point. Just get it out of the way. It's not
I mean, in an ideal world, we don't. Miz could always get injured.
I could see them doing the one-on-one at Crown Jewel rather than waiting until Mania.
Yeah, they definitely could do that as well. And then I'd have to watch it because I never watched the Saudi shows.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Styles is going whole hog, as Brock Lesnar would say, in this feud with the Miz, because he's just like, oh, Miz, I'm going to fucking teach you a lesson and all this stuff. And it's like, all right, yeah, you just completely bypassed the Judgment Day. Like, man, what a fucking mess Judgment Day has been. From just the very switch over, basically, of like, okay, this is the plan. It became like, I'm going to crash and nosedive this thing.
As soon as Hell in a Cell was over with, it just made no sense. I will say, just real quick on Raw, I don't like when they do this stupid, I'm calling for disqualification because Ciampa came in to break the hold and save the match for his team that he's actively competing in. That's a stupid finish. I hate when they do it. And that's what they chose to go with on Raw.
It's like that Spider-Man thing from Family Guy. Everybody gets one. That's like an unofficial rule that they've said before. You can break up the pin once. You do it again, it's DQ. Even when we don't want to admit it, when we just ignore it sometimes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that happen on Raw are not necessarily things that I think, generally speaking, I can't speak, of course, for everybody, but I would think if you're reading this, you would be like, oh, okay, well, what am I supposed to be excited about? Like the Carmella thing, I've said before, I'm a fan of Carmella, but we've seen Carmella and Bianca Belair multiple times, and there's no use in just continuing that feud. And to just have her win by countout means they're going to do something else in the meantime. And
well, they straight up had Becky say, I'm fighting for the title at SummerSlam.
And that too is just like, okay, well, we're just doing that again. We've seen this. This is going to be the fifth time between those. Do something different.
Is they ran Bianca and Becky into the ground last year, but the really good match at WrestleMania, and they haven't had a singles match since, just because they're like, this is the one where they're, no, I just don't think we should do it. They've done everything else, but just say, here's your rematch with Becky and Bianca, because it'll be a good match.
Well, despite how it seems like there might be a hint that they're going to do a three-way, I think this is going to be one of those scenarios where we look back a week from now or something and we go, wait, weren't you setting up a three-way? Because I think we're just going to get Carmella versus Belair again on Raw, and then she meaning Bianca, is going to just beat Carmella, and then it'll be Becky attacks her and they just announce it's Becky versus Bianca. No triple threat. And then we just go like, well, why did you do the count out and whatever? And it'll be because we got you talking for a week and that's it. I don't have a whole lot of faith that they have much more of a plan other than it's Bianca versus Becky. And as great as they are, we'll talk about it when we get to SummerSlam predictions. If that's the case, I'm like, why do I care? Either Belair loses the title and you didn't learn anything from the last time, or Becky continues to lose and we just keep this story going of who fucking cares, you know? It's a shame when you look at that and then you look at something like the SmackDown roster, because the SmackDown roster doesn't know what to do with its women. And you've got people like Xia Li, who it's like, you've got nothing for her to do. Why can't she be on Raw? And you could have built her up and she could have been a potential opponent for Bianca for something different. Where, man, we really are ignoring the Shayna Baszler side of things. Shayna Baszler versus Bianca Belair would be pretty cool. Instead of her just doing nothing. Oh, we got to talk about the Natty stuff. That's something we got to add to these hot tags when we get to some SmackDown discussion. Yeah, you know, that's Raw in a lot of ways. There, you know, a random thing with Omos coming out to be like, I guess I'll team with the Usos and R-Truth being in there. Sure, why not? I noticed something this week that really bugs me about Raw. Do you guys ever really pay attention to Alexa Bliss's theme lyrics and how it's stand up, shut up, and fight me? And the rhythm doesn't have enough syllables for that, so the person just goes, and fight me, and they repeat it nonstop.
I'm having flashbacks to a Review to a Kill where you would be able to notice the
music
details about the music, where Cal and I are just gonna go, no, we didn't notice that, and it's silly.
This week I couldn't not notice it because they kept repeating that part of her theme, and they had her do that shit where it's like, you know, somebody comes out to the ring and then we cut to like 4 other segments and then you cut back and then they're still in the ring and, you know, 15 minutes has gone by and then we're just going to play their theme again. So I just kept hearing stand up, shut up, and fight me. Stand up, shut up, and fight me. Stand up, shut up, and fight me. And I'm like, my God, I hate this fucking song. I hate it so much. And I wish that the lyrics were slightly different just so I didn't hear this, like, you know, extra syllable bump that they have in the middle of that. But, you know, the gun barrel in Casino Royale is a little bit too pointy for me. So let's move over to NXT. There is a lot to talk about for NXT, and it's not good. So you're going to hear some complaints here on this one. We start off the show with Roxanne Perez laying in the parking lot because for maybe the 9th time this year alone, God knows how many times in the past 2 years, somebody's been attacked in the parking lot and we don't know who did it. And oh my God, that's the through line throughout the show. We were talking about this on the last episode about the idea of through lines. And, you know, you used to start off, I think we were talking about this on the last episode. It might not have been the last one now I'm thinking about it. That was the Mount Rushmore. But you start off an episode and then you carry something along through, and it used to be more entertaining that way. But I hate this crutch that NXT's writers do. They do this practically every other week. It's the same as the we're going to announce a match and then we're just going to announce that there was a change at the last minute thing. Of course, you go, oh, it's going to be Toxic Attraction, and then we have Nikita Lyons later on saying, I've got the most to benefit, but you know, it's not me, and I'll gladly take Randy Rose up for a challenge, and then nothing at all happens because, you know, why? But we'll come back to this a little bit later on. That's just how you started the show, and that was your recurring theme. Giovanni Vinci beat Apollo Crews through a little bit of a distraction through Zion Quinn, because you got the double feud going on at the same time. 2 people feuding with Apollo Crews, despite the fact that Apollo Crews came out saying he wanted to fight Braun Breaker, and just ignore that. Cameron Grimes got a promo of, man, I'm a fucking loser.
But it was good.
That's basically what he was saying. He's just like, yeah, I keep losing and everything. And then JD McDonough, Jordan Devlin, basically started a little bit of a mini feud with him. So we know the basic idea is Jordan Devlin's going to beat Cameron Grimes on his way to fighting Braun Breaker. I'm not opposed to it. I think it's okay.
It's fine.
Ted and Paxley beat Caden Carter. Sangha beat Duke Hudson. They did a big thing with Solo Sikoa and Von Wagner. Now, if you have not been following NXT, this feud started basically because Solo Sikoa went up to Von Wagner and was like, I don't know, match. And now they're in like a bitter rivalry where they can fight and brawl for a double count out through multiple segments.
Because you made it sound like they've been feuding for any length of time. He came up to him last week.
Yeah.
And just said, I'll fight you.
Right.
And they got really intense. I guess the idea being Sikoa's from the streets and Wagner has a temper issue. And they just beat the shit out of each other for the majority of this episode of NXT. One of the things I actually kind of liked it, that they just couldn't stop these two from beating the crap out of each other. It ended with Robert Stone going into a dumpster. But the idea of, okay, these two just want to fight and they want to beat the shit out of each other, I like that. That I can get behind.
I just think it's funny that they went from 0 to 100 on it. Like, the feud literally starts with him just being like, I'll have a match with you. And then it's like, oh, yeah, well, I hate you. I hate you too. Like, you ever see that thing of those two dogs that are barking at each other like they're going to kill each other when there's a fence between the two? And then somebody opens the fence and the dogs both stop barking. They act like they're like best friends, just wagging their tails. Then the person closes the fence again and they start barking at each other. It's like, you put a fence between those two dogs and they're just like, yeah, fuck you, I'm territorial. It sounded like that kind of thing for me. But it was better than some of the other things. I mean, we got a little bit of a waste of time here and there with like Indy Hartwell beat Lash Legend, Alpha Fire.
This wasn't a waste of time. This is, and I'll just put it out there because I went back and watched this after hearing some reviews about it. This is your worst match of 2022 right now.
It's on my list for biggest botches of the year as well.
That fucking springboard elbow.
That's what it was supposed to be?
Yeah, it was
she's done it before.
She does a springboard elbow drop as a finisher, but she seemed to miss it, and it seemed like Lash Legend wasn't even in position to take it anyway. And then the stupid roll up, where actually Indy manages to pin herself, but they still give her the win.
Yeah.
You watch it, her shoulders are down on the mat. It's just all the stuff. Like, what the fuck was Lash doing with that? She had this like backbreaker hold on, and then she decided, okay, I'm going to add a bit of flourish to it by bouncing Indy's head in between the ropes.
Yeah, I was confused about that too.
I missed that spot. I didn't see that.
I went back to rewatch it because I was like, oh, did something like she get caught somewhere, or like was this a different botch or whatever? Because it just didn't seem like it made any sense, and it was like, no, okay, it literally just doesn't make any sense. That's why.
Fundamentally, it's matching Lash Legend, who is one of the worst wrestlers on the entire NXT roster, and that's saying something, against Indy Hartwell, who can work decently against someone who is more experienced than her, but certainly can't carry someone who is as inexperienced as Lash Legend is. And yeah, it's absolutely hideous. Like, it's the worst match I've seen Indy Hartwell have, and she's had some pretty bad matches in her NXT run as well.
It's something that is worth going back and checking because of how bad there are different parts for it.
The botch at the end, though, I felt real bad because I'm looking at the. Okay, I'm looking at it now. Yeah. Okay, she's just getting the ponytail kind of bounced. Okay, that's a little weird. I get that the backbreaker was to show the strength of Lash Legend. They had an idea of a match, you know.
It's just very indicative of that thing we've talked about before, which NXT 2.0. One of the biggest flaws that they have is that they, for some reason, thought that they could just skip the whole step of training. That they were like, yeah, we just signed you, have a match, and it's going to be garbage, but, hey, you're on TV, you're on Level Up or whatever. And, the Lash Legend, she might be something in the future, but you're not doing her any favors by having her wrestle where she looks like garbage. Give her a little bit of time to learn, and then maybe she could be something.
I maintain this all the time. they need to get off of USA with this show. Put anything out, put something else there if you need the content. But like they need to get NXT off of USA because it's not fair.
Well, an even worse aspect of it is the fact that you know that the way they do things with NXT, that Lash Legend and Indy Hartwell probably rehearsed this match dozens of times before they actually put this together, and this was still the best they could do. And shit happens, things go wrong in matches. Like, she has done that springboard elbow before and had no issues, so hopefully it's just an aberration. But it's just one of those instances where anything that could have gone wrong in that match seemingly did. And yeah, the worst part is that they're not really learning anything from doing this because they're just rehearsing matches over and over and over again in the performance center, and then just expected to do it. And if it goes well, then yeah, you practiced it a million times. And if it doesn't go well, it's like, well, but you practiced a million times. How did it not go well? And then when they actually get called up to either Raw or SmackDown, they're not allowed to rehearse. They can't rehearse matches a million times over because you have to go on the road pretty much all the time. So then you've got to learn how to work on your feet, which means that practically, even though this whole idea of NXT in NXT 2.0 is, okay, now we're looking at the athletes and that's who we kind of see as the future of our business, they're not being trained in the way that they can actually end up performing on Raw and SmackDown because it's a completely different style of working to what they're doing in NXT.
It would have been really cool if they could have just kept the Ciampas and the Garganos and the Coles and then just built Level Up as like, okay, this is an hour-long program where you're only going to see our new prospects, like Lash Legend and this one and that one. Just because, again, like, I think Lash Legend, there is a presence to her that I think she could be something, but they're not helping her.
Yeah, she has the look of somebody that should be a major star. She just doesn't have the talent. And she might have the talent in the future. She doesn't have the talent right now, but that should be the whole point of how we used to see people, where it would be like, okay, well, they've been in developmental for 2 years and now they're going to debut. It's because now they've reached a point where they can handle themselves. The Level Up thing, that would be such a better way of doing it, but they want to try to milk everything for the, whatever they can get out of it, and also skip the line. And skipping through something is a great transition to talk about this, because Mandy Rose and Roxanne Perez have their NXT Women's Championship match. Remember
all the vignettes?
I didn't even write them down. I was like, oh, the scan here thing. I'm like, all right, it's Zoe Stark.
Well, are you just saying that because you're convinced that it's Zoe Stark after last week? I thought it was actually good. It was a Wordle. It was a take on a Wordle game, and there were names like Quinn and Becky and Brock. So they're at least doing something fun there.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it's all going to build to, hey, Zoe Stark is back. And it's like, okay. And I guess technically we should talk about, before we get into the Roxanne thing, we should talk about the Dyad next week. They're going to unveil themselves, and it's looking more and more and more likely that this is just the grizzled young veterans, and that they are going to be Rip Fowler, which we thought was going to be JD McDonough. And then the other trademark that they had done, Jagger Reid. Or it might be Jagger Reid, depending on, some people do that. I don't know. I think it's Jagger, but Jagger Reid, I'm assuming, and Rip Fowler, Zach Gibson, and James Drake. There's worse names.
Yeah, and next week's show, there's like a lot to look forward to. Axiom, A-Kid, is going to re-debut. He's wearing a mask now.
Yeah, now
he's good at math, but he's a luchador.
He's a good lucha thing.
That's fun. There'll be a battle royal to determine Mandy Rose's #1 contender. And there will be the NXT UK tag titles on the line, because I think Pretty Deadly will just win them back.
I don't think that they're going to win them back, but we'll see about that. Any thoughts on the Jagger Reid name or the scan here thing or anything, Alan, before we get into Roxanne?
Not particularly, but I'd have to care about any of it.
So then let's go to the Roxanne thing, because that was, for anybody who doesn't, again, follow this, remember, Nikita Lyons was basically supposed to be the person that was going to win that NXT Women's Breakout Tournament. she got injured. Roxanne ends up winning. Nikita Lyons, prior to this, teasing that she might fight Randy Rose and defeat the whole purpose of that. But Roxanne and Cora had randomly gotten a number 1 contenders match to set up that they could be fighting for the tag team titles. And it was supposed to be not at all associated with the breakout tournament contract. So they just decided also this. Dumped it on there, you know. They win the titles. A week later, when Roxanne is cashing in her contract or whatever, she gets attacked. And they're all doing this whole, if she can't wrestle, then I'll wrestle or whatever. And anyone with a brain is thinking, can't she just get her match next week? It's not like she cashed in and that's the end of her thing. The match didn't start. She didn't even walk into the fucking building and she got attacked. So if the general manager or whatever of NXT would be like, well, you said you're going to do it this week or whatever, that would be absolutely absurd.
But that guy's on AEW TV.
That's true. So the logic, of course, thrown out the window, as what happens many times in WWE. But Cora Jade says, well, then I guess I'll wrestle or whatever. And Mandy Rose is ready for a match against her. But Roxanne comes out, taped up, beat the hell, has an actual match. We completely ignore the Nikita Lyons aspect that they had teased. And then Cora Jade turns on Roxanne. She hits her with her belt, costs her the match, picks up her skateboard, and goes to swing it to hit Roxanne after the match to be the whole, oh, I'm so upset with you because of whatever. And we'll talk about the motivations as well. But she goes to pick up the skateboard to hit her. And in mid-swing, it fucking breaks.
She picks it up for the first hit and it breaks. Yeah.
So she
recovered nicely. I do want to give them some credit. She recovered nicely.
I don't. I don't want to give her credit for that.
It's not their fault.
I feel bad for Cora that this broke because obviously that's not her fault that they gimmicked it wrong. But it's so fucking cringy to watch this. And on top of that, the reason that this exists is stupid and it makes no sense. So this is like the best tweet that I had seen about this was like, man, even the skateboard gave up on this heel turn already. Because this is fucking terrible across the board. It's got what's probably going to be my biggest botch of the year. And it's 1 week after these two win the tag titles. And you're already splitting them up. They've not had an opportunity to have any run with this whatsoever. They didn't have a single title defense. They didn't get their actual team name. They didn't stand next to each other and hold the titles more than they did on the night that they won the belts. And they already want to split them up. Because WWE is like, man, number one, we don't like tag teams. We put people together just to split them up.
Number two, we really don't like
women's tag teams. Exactly. I wrote a whole article of it immediately afterward. I'm like, you know what? This proves without with no debate whatsoever, WWE does not fucking like women's tag teams. Despite the fact that they've got 2 titles in a time frame when, if anybody goes back to the past couple of years, those women's tag team titles in general, people were talking about that there was a reason to have them, or at least a possibility of a reason to have them for quite a while. And then, like, kicking and screaming, Vince is like, here's your fucking belts. That was the introduction. You want some belts? Here's your goddamn belts. There you go. Yeah, he was seemingly just like, I don't want to do this to begin with. We've had all these NXT or WWE women's champions that did not matter, where they just put the belts on like, oh, it's Nia and Shayna. And why? Because it's Nia and Shayna. There you go. And they were supposed to be cross-branded belts. I think that they had 1 match in NXT. And that was it. Because the cross-branded thing was 1 promo, and then we'll never reference it again other than that one thing. And then they create these women's tag titles for NXT and do fuck all with them. Because our first NXT tag team champions for the women lost it that day. They won it back again and lost it 2 days later. And every single champion in the NXT Women's Tag Team division, except for Toxic Attraction, has been a complete and utter waste. Io Shirai and Zoe Stark, not a great tag team. And really, what did they do? Ember Moon and Shotzi, not a great tag team. And then they bring Shotzi up to the main roster and Tegan Nox, and then they get rid of Tegan Nox like 3 weeks later. This thing has been...
The way we're tag team champions.
And they were arguably like the best options, and they still didn't do anything with them. They were just like, here's the belts, and then, about 100 days from now, they have a track record. I looked on the current breakdown on Wikipedia, whatever. It seems like when they hit the 120 day mark, they're like, we have to get new champions. It's just, that's fucking it. And man, this is the worst out of the bunch, I think, because it's like the Dakota and Raquel thing. You could argue that the first time it's interesting that somebody wins the title and then immediately loses it. They shouldn't have won it the second time just to lose it and then to let go Dakota Kai. But what is the point of this? And now the story coming out is, oh, this was always the plan. We'll give them the belts and then immediately have them split up. Fucking why?
I don't buy that, but whatever. It was really bad. It was really like, my immediate reaction was, okay, they're gonna do away with all women's tag team belts.
They really should.
That was my immediate reaction. I think they should, and there is no reason to have them anymore. We're not in the landscape that we were in 2019, where it was like, there's so many women, and there's NXT women, and Sasha and Bayley want to go over to NXT and fight these women. What happened was, by the start of 2020, by mid-2020, start of 2021, they had made up their mind already that they were going to do NXT 2.0 and decided, we don't want any crossover because the WWE superstars are not on the level of NXT superstars because they're way above now. That's why they created their own belts. At this point, there's no need for them. Now, the turn itself, when Cora did the first promo of, well, if they think that they're going to take out my girl, I said, oh no, it can't possibly be her. I got excited thinking, okay, Nikita is a better option. Turn Nikita heel. Maybe that'll be something. But for it to just be Cora, honestly, if they didn't win the belts, I think this would be fine. But this is just like, now you got to do something with the belts. Now you got to explain how they were super duper best friends and now they're not, just because Roxanne is selfish because she decided to not even celebrate winning the tag titles before she said, nah, I want this one.
And that kind of storytelling for anybody who is like, oh, I'm interested in seeing the feud together. Just think about this just logically. For any, take out the idea that this is fake and just try to approach this as two regular people doing this. Cora Jade wins tag team titles. She wins her first championship alongside her best friend, her best buddy, we're besties for life type person. And within a week, she's like, oh, you're going for another belt? I am so mad at you for potentially, even if you lose, of course, I'm not even factoring that in, but potentially you might win that belt and that might upstage me. I am going to completely throw out my entire character, be a completely different type of person, and ruin my own tag team championship run because I can't hold the belts with you, all because I'm upset that you might be a little bit of a more chance that you are higher up on the totem pole than I am. We got nothing at all that indicated going into this that was like a tweak in her character, that she would have been like, hey, remember, I've been doing this longer than you have and whatever, or anything that could have set that up the way that any proper storytelling would have been. Instead, it's just, nope, she flipped on a dime. She is a completely different person, and she is willing to sacrifice her own championship within a week because of the possible opportunity that maybe something might possibly get in that way. That is fucking bonkers dumb.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just talk about the fact that this supposedly best friends forever routine, They were a team for 36 days.
I know. I agree with you. They're trying to say they had a friendship dating back to the Indies. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I definitely didn't get that vibe. It just sort of felt like, hey, we're
You
both
look kind of the same.
Yeah, we were both fans of AJ Lee, so that makes us the best buddies forever and ever. Basically what it was.
And then we also talked about the fact that, again, because I looked back on some of this stuff because I saw the negativity surrounding it, so I had to get my own taste of it. And Cora Jade cuts a promo off the attack on Roxanne and talk about how it's clearly toxic attraction and all of this stuff. And she's smiling throughout the entire thing. Like, she's so happy that her friend got injured. And so it just, like, anyone with 2 brain cells would have looked at that and just gone, oh yeah, Cora Jade attacked her. Of course, that's
that's what I was saying. That I was hoping that it was just her bad acting, because the NXT women in particular, the men too, but the women for some reason, because they like this, are just like not great at acting. They're not. I was hoping that it was just a nice little swerve.
And then the skateboard break-in. You can tell that how like fragile the gimmick skateboard was, because Cora Jade came out and she was clutching that thing really tight because she knew that if she accidentally moved one thing, it was going to split in half.
My hope is that, okay, cool, you broke the skateboard. Can we not do the skateboard? Like,
I'm assuming that they're not going to have her do the skateboard thing anymore. Yeah. Because that was supposed to be a thing that was like, oh, aren't you a cool chick and you're going down the ring and we could cheer for you.
Yeah, she'll come down as a completely new character and she'll talk about how her friend never had her back. And
she just bring back the little coffin.
I hated that little coffin.
Yeah, and that she'll like relinquish the tag titles, or they'll do something where like they're supposed to defend the tag titles against, I don't know, the TikTok crew, or Toxic Attraction or whatever, and it's just Roxanne in a 2-on-1 handicap match and she loses, and then you build up the feud for whenever the next takeover show is, or next big event they decide to do. Yeah.
No, it's a shame that you can't even say something like, okay, if they were to say, oh, Tony, you got a job in WWE right now, what is your pitch for where we go with this? I'd be like, can we figure out what we do with the fucking titles? And can we at least try to do something where it's like, all right, Roxanne is too beaten up now and she can't wrestle anymore, so Cora Jade has somebody else in mind that she wants to be a tag team champion with. And then we get that replacement thing that we had gotten with, like, Timothy Thatcher came in and replaced Pete Dunne. Like, maybe Cora Jade goes, this is my real friend. And it's, I don't know, who's like not, fuck Ava Raine. There you go. Fucking her. And it's like, Simone Johnson is somebody who I'm really connecting with or whatever, and she's going to be my new tag team champion, and then that's the whole switch or something like that. You can't even do that. All they're going to do is they're going to be like, the titles are vacated, and we'll figure out the new champions. And they'll probably give it fucking back to Toxic Attraction, and it'll be like, then why did we do this? Just, you didn't see that coming. Because it's dumb.
There's 3-time NXT Women's Tag Team Champions.
And then it's like, we swerved you. Yeah, I didn't think you could be that dumb. I also don't go into, a Spider-Man movie expecting Spider-Man to get shot in the first 5 minutes and die, and then the whole rest of the movie to be about Aunt May. It would be shocking. I wouldn't fucking like it, I hate this. This is already on my list for worst botch of the year. It's already on my list for worst heel or face turn of the year.
As with everything, I hated it on Tuesday night. And then by the time you get to Friday, which is when we're currently recording, you're just like, I can't exert that much energy to hate this thing when it's just...
I can.
It's so obvious that no one cares anymore. Or, you know what I mean? Like, you end up looking like a fool for caring, and I don't have that in me right now.
I will gladly be the fool on this podcast that goes, no, I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes towards this, or whatever, how long we've been talking. Probably more than 10 minutes. But I hated it. Hated it with passion. And I'm going to bring up something else here that's kind of unrelated or whatever, but remember the whole thing that happened with Cora Jade and Natalya And that was like a little shitty feud that they had going on for a little bit where Natalya was like temporarily babyface, temporarily heel, temporarily babyface again and all that.
Yeah.
I want to transition that to talk about babyface / heel, real Natalya.
I don't know what the fuck that was. Like,
she is going into this territory where now all these reports are coming out that she has massive heat backstage for just being a pain in the ass, essentially. And I don't know, of course, if this is true or not. It's just hearsay and speculation.
It's bullshit, but
she said it's bullshit. But if you watch that footage from the house show, Liv Morgan pins her. She immediately comes up and looks like she's scolding her and saying something like, you know, watch your fucking move or something, and rolls out of the ring. And she claims that she was saying something like she was thanking Liv, but you've been in here for a decade plus. Don't you realize that doesn't look good? Can't you thank her in any other way? Don't you thank her by being like, by laying down and being like, you know, hey, thanks, when people can't hear that, but she can? You don't just get right up, point at her, and act like you're upset with her or something. I'm starting to think that there's a little bit more to this than maybe necessarily, you know, now you're like, oh, that's bullshit. You don't believe in that. I don't know. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on. You guys see that footage?
I'm rewatching it again. I saw it when it initially happened, but I'm rewatching it again. It was a 3-way with Ronda, and she just took the Oblivion. Liv Morgan pins her, and then she got up and said something. Maybe there was a stiff shot that she was just like, hey, fucking chill. Who knows? They seem to be on fine terms now. Maybe it was like a Charlotte Nia situation where for a minute there they were really heated, and then it was like, all right, we made up.
Do you see that clip, Callum?
Yes, of the clip.
What do you think about it?
This is something that involves Natalya, so you couldn't pay me to be interested.
Not even this?
No, because it's like, oh, Natalya got angry after a either a botched finish or something that happened in the match and stormed out. Literally, if it was any other person, it probably would be reasonably fascinating. The fact that it's Natalya's just like, okay, like what are they really going to do? They're not going to fire Natalya over a botch spot, and realistically, she'll just go in and out of tag teams and potential one-off title opportunities pretty much from now until the end of her career. So I don't think this is going to change that much. It's a one-off aberration, I'm sure. I mean, I can't say it happens like frequently, but I'm sure it happens more often than people realise it. Or it doesn't happen probably in the ring, but it happens backstage where someone just gets in each other's face and just goes like, what the fuck was going on there?
Well, supposedly the rumors and, you know, oh, somebody, you know, or source backstage said this, you know, kind of thing, which again, of course, got to take it with a grain of salt, might not be true. Supposedly the issue is that she complains all the time to the writers and the producers that she's not being treated well enough, and that she is, you know, treated like a jobber, and that she's been here and she, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then whenever she's around Vince, that she quote unquote baby faces Vince and says everything is totally fine. And she is so thankful for the opportunity to still be here and everything. Essentially, I'm going to bitch to the people that aren't going to be able to do anything about it. And then when Vince, the boss, is saying, you know, oh, are you upset? Then she goes like, no, I'm totally fine. And then we'll complain to somebody else again. I think there's a pretty strong chance that probably does happen with not just Natalya, but probably a lot of other people as well. Because that happens in every other type of job.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's any point really singling out Natalya on this front. I'm sure. I can't say with certainty who it would be, but I'm sure there are people like that behind the scenes, and there've almost certainly been tons and tons of people like that over the years that in WWE and pretty much any other wrestling promotion, or pretty much I would say any other job. So, yeah, Natalya's probably just one of those people, and it would make sense. She has been there for a very long time. She probably feels like she's owed more than what she's given. But then again, it all boils down to my interpretation, which I think is shared with quite a few other wrestling fans, is that she's just completely uninteresting. So I don't want to see her fighting for a title or anything like that, because she is a mechanically sound wrestler who actually does have personality, but it's not really anything that I'm particularly interested in.
It doesn't translate the same way as normal wrestling characters do.
Yeah, the most personality she showed was in her Twitter feud with Ronda.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it actually goes on to her try to show character on TV, her acting, if you can call it that, is just so. I would say it's like
wooden
B grade movie, but that's disrespecting a lot of B grade movie actors.
Yeah, WWE wants all their superstars to be actors as well, and you can't just here's lines, read them, and be an actor. That's why people have jobs. I mean, you can't hand a hammer to somebody and say be a carpenter, and you can't just give a scalpel to somebody and be like, you're a surgeon, right? Like, you got to have the talent for it.
Although I would find it funny in a movie if just at some point during a scene, like during a fight scene or whatever, one of the actors just says, "All right, I'm done," and just walks out of the scene, and then you just have to continue the movie pretending like that didn't happen. Just stand up and say, "Nope, you actually punched me in the face. You actually caught me in the face. I'm walking off."
It looks like I watched the footage. I think maybe a knee got a little too close, and maybe she's just like, watch it, But I think this is just one of those things. Unfortunately, Natty, because of past instances, like the thing with the meme, where I think it's easy to say these things about Natty, but knowing the source of the report that Tony was claiming, I don't buy that. I just think that there was a bit of a blow up. They got over it, and if Natty was going to the writers, I would commend her for that, because I'd commend anybody. It's just like commending Sasha and Naomi, because hey, sometimes the writers need people who are like, hey, what the fuck are you doing with me?
To the same effect, though, as much as I can't disagree with anybody who's trying to argue that they feel like they deserve better in any kind of job, I also feel like everyone feels that, and not everyone is entitled to it. So when you get to something like, say you're working what's another random job that we haven't even talked about? Just to spice it up a little bit. Yeah, cab driver. You get into some kind of cab and you hear the person going, "Oh yeah, I drive all fucking day and I don't make enough money," or whatever. Then you go, "Okay, well, are there other people that want to do the same job that can?" And then they go, "Yeah, Uber." And you go, "Well, there you go. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you drive faster? Do you drive better? No. Okay, well then why do you deserve more than anyone else?" "Well, because I've been doing it and it annoys me." "Yeah, I wish I got paid more too. Or I wish that I got, more notoriety." I mean, you necessarily deserve it all the time. And sometimes I think that it would be useful if people complained more so that they could obviously get what they deserve. But then also, I think sometimes it'd be useful if people complain more so that they can get a little dose of reality and be like, no, not everybody wins the championship multiple times. Not everybody is the main event. If you're like Reggie and you're going, "Why am I not holding that, universal title?" Because you're fucking Reggie, like some people are just the way that they are. It happens. And I don't know. I mean, it's one of those stories where I think that there's probably more truth to it than what's being just like, don't believe everything you read online. But then at the same time, a lot of things you read online tend to be true. And then we just don't want to pay attention to those. It's a story. It's a hot tag.
I'll put it this way, in the case of Natalya and with some other people on the WWE roster, just because you've been there a long time doesn't mean you deserve any more than what you're getting.
That's very true. And if you want to get what you deserve, you should be picking up something from our sponsors for this episode, Manscaped. You can see on the screen right now, you got the Platinum package. Look at all that you get in that. You can get your promo code SMARK and use that to get 20% off and free shipping on your orders. could be any of these individual things that are on the screen, you know, those boxers that there's different types of designs for now. You get the body wash that I use every single day when I'm showering, because that's the point. You know, I mean, I'm not going to use that mid podcast or something, but you got your deodorant, use that every day as well. Crop preservers and stuff are all great. You got that little travel bag, which I don't have that travel bag, but I probably should pick one up because I am going to be traveling to Brazil in a couple weeks. So that would have been a really good travel bag. I might have to order that in the meantime. Now I write myself a little note. But yeah, the shampoo and conditioner, arguably the best shampoo and conditioner that I've ever used. I would recommend that a whole lot. All these different things, especially that lawnmower. I always want to say, get the lawnmower one. All these things, same promo code, same options, 20% off and free shipping. There are so many different things that you should be checking out on this website that you would be remiss to not try out at the very least. And, you know, Manscaped has been sponsoring us for a while. And the reason why we keep promoting them instead of just being like, you know, well, you know, it is what it is because the products are actually good enough. You know, they are as good as they claim to be. They are the main tools out there for their family jewels, as they market themselves to be. So check out the shears kit, check out the crop mops and everything else that you see on the site. Check out what the cologne might be if you're interested in picking up a new cologne. It's always good to have a good cologne. And, you know, if you're going somewhere nice.
Cologne, you might say.
If you get a Primo cologne, I don't know if the promo code will work for that, but that would be a Primo code instead of a promo code. But 20% off and free shipping on everything on the website. Just use that promo code SMARK, Smark, just like the name of the site and the name of this podcast you're listening to, and pick something up and let them know that we are the ones that sent you their way. So thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring us, and thank you to anybody who picked something up. And if you want to show your support in some other fashion by helping out Smark Out Moment directly, check out these marketplace options we got going on. We got Redbubble and TeePublic, or where you can pick up some t-shirts and merchandise. I mentioned earlier, if you click that join button on YouTube, that gives you access to the members only content. It's exactly the same tier system as Patreon. So the $1 tier is just a little means to help out. Same thing as that little thanks button. You know, you can toss a buck our way that way. But you got the Darkcast, you got the Pick Your Poison tier where you can request things and make sure that we do something like how we most recently did the Mount Rushmore of the super heavyweights and the big men. Guy123 had been asking for that for probably about a month or so, and we never got around to doing it until then. Well, if Guy wanted to make sure that we got around to that sooner, pick your poison tier. That's the whole point. So, yeah, that's a great way for you to just make sure that you let us know that you want us to keep doing this kind of stuff, and for me to have the time to be able to do it, because, you know, less time that I need to work on other things, more time I can put on this Smark Out Moment. Keep that in mind. Same thing for Fanboys Anonymous as well.
So here's a late breaking one. They have just announced that Briscoes and FTR at Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor will be 2 out of 3 falls.
Cool.
I like it.
Next week, we're going to be getting into our predictions for that. And I don't follow too much of Ring of Honor to begin with, but we're going to be paying a lot more attention. Yeah.
There isn't really much of Ring of Honor to follow.
But I mean, like, you know, I haven't seen more than like 1 or 2 Briscoe matches, for instance.
Yeah,
so,
but at this point, you're fine because, like,
it's kind of a reboot. Yeah. A little bit, yeah. It's you're going to be more beneficial if you know what's going into this, but it's a soft reboot, kind of. So I'm interested in seeing this pay-per-view. I'm hoping that this gets lumped in through Bleach Report, and I can check that out and everything. And
it will, and I think you should be able to.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit next week, but that's cool. I'm down for a 2 out of 3 falls match, kind of the way that the Street Profits and the Usos should have been, but instead we're just getting, hey, mystery Street Profits referee that nobody seems to be willing to pay attention to who's going to pick it and whatever. And I guess we'll talk about that next week or the week after or so, but not liking how they're doing that feud. Let's, before we get into the AEW Fyter Fest talk, there's nothing really to talk about for NXT UK. It's spoiler stuff that we've already talked about, but let's talk about the quote unquote big story for this week, which is rounding out this TV talk here from WWE. Raw is going to be going to PG, to be ending the PG era and going to TV-14. And I immediately wrote up an article that people were like, oh, why are you already bashing this? And I'm like, I'm not bashing it. I think it's a good thing. But the premise of the article that I wrote was, this is not going to be the saving grace that a lot of people think that it is. I saw a lot of people online going like, oh, finally, it's back. This is going to save everything. This is going to fix all the problems. I don't think it's going to change pretty much a damn thing, to be honest. It seems like this is a USA directive more than a WWE one. And there's no indication that NXT is going to go TV-14. There's no indication that SmackDown's going TV-14. So it seems like it's just USA said, why don't you go TV-14 for Raw? Maybe those 3 hours could use a tad more edge, and not in the, Rated R Superstar sense. But I'm not expecting, for instance, the profanity level to go up.
I am.
You think that people are going to start being like, they're going to drop one F-bomb each show?
That's the one. I don't think they're going to drop an F-bomb. But that's the one thing that I can say for sure will increase.
Yeah, they'll just say ass instead of butt.
Just like you hear the word shit 5 times an episode on AEW, I think the profanity level will increase if this happens. Yeah. Because let's be clear, Andrew Zarian reported that it would happen this coming Monday, July 18th, and then was like, it's on the table for future episodes.
Yeah, so that's the important thing to caveat about this entire thing, is that seemingly this report got out through Andrew Zarian that this is going to be happening, and there does seem to at least be enough people that are backing up to the claim that there was a memo going out that Raw next week going to be TV-14, and then in the hours that followed that, then the messages came out saying, okay, it might not actually be this one, whether they've got cold feet or whether the report itself was a little bit like jumping the gun. I think the likelihood is that they got wind of this story getting broken, and then some people got cold feet about the whole situation, decided, yeah, let's pump the brakes on this now, have a bit more of a think about it, and then decide going forward. I don't think it's going to change anything, because realistically, with this current PG rating, there isn't really much they could do on top of that to make it TV-14. It's not like people don't say things like, it's not like on the PG shows they haven't said the words like bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Asshole, goddamn. For some reason, those two get bleeped
as much. Maybe they won't bleep it as much. I don't know.
But I just don't think. Well, the main thing that is not going to go back to the Attitude Era. Let's just get that thing straight, because there's one significant difference between WWE now and the Attitude Era. Is that WWE during the Attitude Era was not a publicly traded company.
Right.
They have sponsors. They have sponsors, significant sponsors.
It's a completely different era as well. It's just as far as TV and the way that, look at South Park. South Park was huge in even WWE. It's funny enough. Like, you got Golga wearing a Cartman t-shirt and whatnot. South Park has changed.
Golga references this week.
Really? No, that's right. Yeah, we did on the Mount Rushmore. Golga making a comeback here. But South Park is a completely different show from what it used to be. It used to be, how are they going to kill Kenny this week, and what kind of shock humor are they going to do? And now I watched the most recent episode, and yeah, there's still some of those elements, but it's mostly satire. And you can't do the same stuff that you could do back then. And some things are not as risque, and some things are way more risque. I don't think we're going to get some, for instance, the main things that switch it over to PG-14 or TV-14 and not PG: profanity, violence, drug use, suggestive dialogue. Funny enough, it's always funny that they specify that, and nudity. Well, the dialogue stuff, it is what it is. I don't think that they're really going to.
Look at NXT. That how, like,
as Rob says, the horniest show in the world.
Yeah, one of their characters is legitimately a masturbation addict. He broke his wrist masturbating.
Hey, he's got a strong wrist.
Yeah.
But we got they're trying to push the envelope there as far as just how much they can get away with on this PG thing, and in a really lame, tame kind of way. But the profanity thing, yeah, they'll say asshole instead of, butt. Oh, we're going to kick your butt. No, they're going to say we're going to kick your ass. Oh, wow. Is that really going to change anything? No.
But hold on. Let's look at it from a perspective point of view, because I remember when the switch over to PG was made, there were it didn't happen all overnight, but there were some really jarring moments where suddenly you had John Cena, who once had no problem saying a lot of things, was saying, "Oh, JBL is poopy," and it is a perception thing. So maybe if you can do something that would deeply contrast what they've been doing, where it feels like, okay, there's a change, maybe they can hook somebody.
It's certainly not a bad thing, put it that way. But I don't expect that to be that much of a change on the profanity side. The violence, they're already fighting each other, and they're already doing it as safe as they are going to. I think the only thing we're going to see that's different is maybe now they don't switch over to like the black and white when somebody's been bleeding. Yeah, if you see like some footage of, a clip from WrestleMania, last night at WrestleMania, this happened, and then it's like somebody got busted open mid-match, and the whole rest of the clips are all in black and white. Maybe they don't do that anymore. Maybe they show the blood. I've always thought that was pretty stupid, that they're like, it's black and white, so we have to put it in black and white in on the website. That picture needs to be like that because we can't have somebody bleeding on the site. Well, that's stupid.
You know what, though? Even something like that would go a long way. If you could watch a Hell in a Cell match where you had, two guys bleeding buckets, goes a long way into feeling like, okay, this is what it should be.
Instead of the referee coming in and sealing it immediately.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to solve everything.
No.
Because there's been gradual changes, as the years have gone on. But I do think it's time to at least make a shift in, okay, we're going to tell you that it's TV-14 so that we can get away with the occasional edgy thing every now and again, instead of everything being so sanitized that it hurts the show.
Well, on the nudity side of things and the sexual content, I looked it up when I wrote up this article because I was just like, I'm curious what it's at right now. The last thing that we got that was like, ooh, they're showing some skin thing was the stupid Alexa Bliss back thing.
That did numbers.
It got, on that night that they did it, within 24 hours, it got 4 million views on YouTube. The current ranking, current view list on that, 14 million to show her back. Alexa Bliss, multiple time winner of a tournament and everything, but she doing that was in 2019, and people are still talking about that because it was like, oh, okay, oh my god. I'm not expecting this to be one of those things where people go, it's TV-14, now we're going to get the Sable era back, and we're going to get the pasties and all that. That's not fucking happening, people. WWE's not going to switch over to that. I don't even think it's going to be one of those gradual transitions where it might happen in a year. I don't think that's happening at all. And I think people are kind of they're getting their hopes up too much, and I want to kind of look, TV-14 is a good switch, and there's a chance that these things can happen more if they switch it over, so that's a positive. But just because there is the option that maybe that would help doesn't mean that solves any of the creative problems, doesn't mean it solves the talent pool not being utilized correctly, the constant rematches, the dropping feuds out of nowhere, just being the storyline changed, whatever. WWE has a lot more problems than what the PG thing is.
Yeah, if anything, it could actually become a crutch for them, in the sense that they can actually tell even lazier stories, but use swear words, or get someone to drop a hint of shoulder.
Look at them gams,
Yeah, and then
hey,
just go
if the back, you would imagine the shoulders.
Yeah, and just go, oh wow, that's sort of even more edgy than we're used to, and so they don't even have to try with actually telling meaningful stories at all. They can just go pure shock value. And to be fair, that's a good percentage of what the Attitude Era was.
People forget how much of the Attitude Era was actually garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I've gone back. I wasn't watching it at the time, so I've gone back, and when I go back and watch it, it's so terrible. It's so trashy. It's so it's garbage. The wrestling's terrible. The only things that are good are anything that involves Austin McMahon and The Rock, pretty much. Maybe bits and pieces with DX, but even then they can get a bit cringy. Quote unquote blackface, nation domination, all that stuff. So
honestly, if you look at much of the Austin bits, they're rooted in things that are just out and out silly, but the guy was charismatic enough to pull it off.
Yeah.
And for every Undertaker and Kane story that was like captivating and interesting and cool,
there's been 30 garbage.
Right.
Stories.
You had fucking beaver cleavage and whatnot, you know.
And Big Boss Man feeding Al Snow's dog, stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, I mean, people just do that revisionist history and they look at everything through rose-colored glasses, but.
Well, to be fair, mostly WWE that does that.
I mean, the fans do it though, because they're always like, "Oh, I want the Attitude Era back," and you're like, "Do you really, or do you just really want to be a kid watching Stone Cold Steve Austin again?"
People want the Attitude Era back because that point wrestling was cool, but there's a lot of factors involved in that. Obviously, Austin was a big part of that. They don't have there's no wrestling promotion that has a star of the magnitude of Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's no a promotion that has a star of the magnitude of The Rock. There's no authority figure that's as big an asshole to hate as Vince McMahon, of course, except Vince McMahon himself, but there's a lot of other reasons to be hating him right now. And there's no say what you want about AEW, there's no head-to-head competition.
Yeah. People really don't want the Attitude Era back. They want to be 12 again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, it's nostalgia, and people want to go back to the way it was, and this TV-14 move is probably a way of at least trying to like tug on these nostalgia strings of people who are lapsed and maybe want to at least check it back just for the sake of curiosity. But maybe they'll have to do some things to at least allude to that. Like, hey, see, things are slightly different. I don't know how to do it. The only thing that really springs to mind is you call up both Toxic Attraction and Nikita Lyons to Raw or SmackDown.
I think we're focusing too much on the like. Let's up the sexual content. I think you just get more violence in there and less like, okay, here's a full-blown Elimination Chamber match with no blood, even though we're going to show you the highlight packages of nothing but Triple H and Shawn Michaels bleeding buckets. I think like that's where they can do the most good. By making it seem like, okay, these people are really going to battle again. Maybe you want to actually sit there and watch this to see what happens next. And then you can sprinkle in maybe, here's a Nikita Lyons, here's Mandy Rose. Or like on NXT, they had Trick Williams and Mello just in a hot tub with a bunch of girls. Great.
See, I don't have any faith that the violence level is going to go up and whatever, because I feel like, what are they going to do? I mean, they're not going to do chair shots to the head because it's not safe. And they're not going to let people bleed, like just blade themselves and bleed. So what are they going to make kendo sticks?
They did hire Cody.
Yeah, he's just going to bleed naturally. But like, kendo sticks aren't going to get more violent, and they pretty much only use those. You know, somebody uses a steel chair to the back. It's the same as what we've gotten. You know,
but that's exactly the point I'm making. That. Look at how low the bar is, that if you just did slight tweaks, like use something other than a kendo stick, maybe use a chain, like it would feel more aggressive because the bar has been set so low.
And those are the things that I think they could have done in the PG era and they just chose not to. Because violence in the rating schedules, and I mean, of course, TV is a little bit different from the MPAA and whatever, but it is still pretty similar. You can have a lot more violence than you can, for some reason, profanity. You know, I mentioned the you've got one fuck that you can say. If you say fuck twice, suddenly you're rated R. Nudity is the thing more than anything that, you know, a movie shows a naked person and suddenly it's rated R. Oh my God, people have bodies. And then you got people blowing their heads off and they're like, oh, it's not that bad. So I think that if they want to appear TV-14, the only way that they can really do that is to up to the sexual content. But then they're playing a game that they're not going to really win, because if you up the sexual content, you're probably going to do it with mostly the women. Let's be honest. And then you're going to draw criticism of, oh, we're going back to the era where women were just a bunch of models and everything, because then you're prioritizing that. You're not having the women's tag team titles mean anything and all that. So then you're starting to make it look like this is another, move towards misogyny. And then with the Vince McMahon situation going on right now, you can't really be doing something like that, even more so than you shouldn't be doing it to begin with. So I think that this is I think it's going to end up being all about nothing. I don't think we're going to see any changes pretty much whatsoever. They might say the word shit more often, and that's it. And it'll just be as shitty as it's been. But they'll be able to say shitty instead of hog. But anyway, that's me.
I guess we'll see, because it's like, I think we can all agree that we don't expect a landscape shifting moment here. I just think that, okay, cool. Like, if you do go through with this, it's very easy to shift what you need to shift in order to make it appear like you're actually changing, including just saying, hey, we're TV-14 now. Like, that alone is like, okay, cool. You've got people talking. Now let people bleed a little bit more in matches, and then you'll get them talking more. And I think if you keep it to those small things, it'll be good. I don't expect to ever see, nor do I want to see, a return to, the stupid bra and panties kind of stuff. But I'd like to see Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair beat the shit out of each other and be bleeding buckets. Like, that'd be awesome.
I'd love it if they were like, they start off the next episode of Raw, somebody comes to the ring and goes, we're TV-14 now? Fucking great. They go, wow, that's the one fuck that they got in there, started the whole thing. But I'm not expecting, look, I'll put it this way. I expect less changes than what happened when the McMahons came out on Raw in December 2018 and said, we're going to change things. And then, like, nothing changed. I think that means more than what this is going to end up meaning. But maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'm always hoping to be wrong if I'm saying something that's not going to be great. To round things out on the TV talk for WWE at the very least, SmackDown tonight advertising that we're going to figure out who that special guest referee is going to be. Any predictions? Because I am seeing for most people that are going, oh, it's Sami Zayn and maybe it's Solo Sikoa, whatever. I think it's extremely unlikely that it's Solo Sikoa.
It should probably just be Sami Zayn, but R-Truth popped me on Monday. I wouldn't be opposed to putting R-Truth in the spotlight for a month just to let him have a fun spot at a pay-per-view. But it's likely Sami Zayn.
We're getting Dawkins versus Jimmy Uso. It says for momentum. Now
they have managed.
That's a great. That's a new title. Didn't hear about the momentum title.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't done a lot of straight up tags, but they have managed to put them in singles matches against one another and 6-mans against one another so much that people think we've seen them in 2-on-2 tags 50 times, even though we haven't.
Right. Now, it doesn't specify on the website, which, take it with a grain of salt, it's even WWE's website, but they don't fucking get things right all the time. It doesn't say that the winner picks the referee. Now, what should happen is we should go back and go, hey, script continuity, remember how we were supposed to have a stipulation leading into the last pay-per-view because Montez Ford won that match, and that was the whole fucking point, but then we ignored it. It should be that the Street Profits get to pick their special guest referee, but there has been no indication whatsoever that the Street Profits do actually get to pick the special guest referee, just that there's going to be one. And I feel like if this is just going to end up being Sami Zayn, then it's like, well, why the fuck would the Street Profits want that? He's just going to help the Usos. I can't think of anybody that makes sense to work alongside the Street Profits that could fit in this role, or anybody that can be an impartial judge that would make sense. It's not going to be fucking Steve Austin. So many people are like, oh, Austin always gives a referee. Austin's not refereeing a fucking tag team title match.
Who are you interacting with?
Idiots on Twitter.
Stop.
I'm just saying, they're fucking idiots, because it's like, some people go into a thing like this and they legitimately hype themselves up to feel something like that. They're like, oh, maybe Batista's going to come back. And it's like, where do you fucking come up with these ideas?
Well, I've got one for that. Mick Foley.
Oh, you know what?
He just
He
signed
is
a new
under. We didn't actually cover that. He did sign a new Legends contract this week.
It's not going to be him.
I mean,
you can't.
I could actually realistically see that.
Yeah, you can't say that with any real certainty.
I could say it with about 99% certainty. I think. I don't think that Foley's coming in to wrestle.
Even if it's Sami. Look, here's what I'll say. Even if Sami Zayn comes out with a referee shirt on tonight, I can easily see Mick Foley coming out, putting the sock on him, and then announcing that he's the referee. Just because it's easy to do. It's a fun spot for Foley. We haven't seen Foley in a long time, on TV at least. And it's another name for SummerSlam. I could see that.
I mean, realistically, Zayn should be the special guest referee, and he should cost the Usos the title. Exactly.
That's what I would do.
I'd be okay with it.
And I don't mean intentionally. I think he should fuck up and cost the Usos the titles.
Yeah.
And then get his ass kicked by Roman Reigns.
I would do it intentionally just because I want Sami to be serious again.
Well,
he's great.
He might be after he gets the shit kicked out of him by Roman, but I think he would just try and have the Usos win and fail to do it, fuck up at some point, then get beat up by Roman, then come back as a babyface.
If it's somebody who's on the roster, and I mean, they don't have to make it somebody who's on the SmackDown roster because they just, it is what it is. You can rule out most people. I mean, it's not going to be Butch. That make no fucking sense. It's not going to be Gunther or Max Dupree or any of those. The only other person I could see it being is Shinsuke Nakamura.
I hope he fights Gunther.
I mean, yeah, that's right. They are starting a little bit of that thing with that. Never mind. Yeah. They kind of bypassed the Shinsuke against the Bloodline thing. It's true. Huh. So that wouldn't even be that then. Ludwig Kaiser and... Is he Ludwig or Ludwig? I keep fucking forgetting.
Who cares? It's on name anyway.
So according to the website, it's Ludwig. Okay, so I gotta change that on this because I have formerly Ludwig, formerly whatever.
Was it Ludwig? Because in German they pronounce the W as
it's Ludwig.
Yeah,
it's Ludwig.
In German they pronounce W's as V, so it'd be Ludwig instead.
Ludwig, yeah. But with a W. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
God damn it, WWE. He's fucking Marcel Barthel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's obviously not going to be them. I don't think that we're going to tie the New Day in here and it's going to be Big E or something. And although for an update, he said that he's supposed to be getting some kind of full recovery, which is great. It's great news.
He also said he'd be content if he never wrestles again.
Yeah.
Even if that's the case, I mean, a full recovery is more important,
Well, he said that surgery's off the table and they're waiting until the year mark to do another scan. So it basically means that he's out of action at least until March of next year.
Yeah. Take his time,
And it doesn't mean that surgery won't be back on the table because according to the stuff that he's putting out there, his neck bone isn't healing as it should.
Yeah, at this point, I wouldn't expect to see Big E for another 2 years.
I'm kind of bracing myself in the mindset that I think he's done. Yeah. So.
I think that we're not going to see anything too crazy on SmackDown for that. I don't think it's going to suddenly be the special guest referee is Shanky or whatever.
I mean, one of the most exciting things to look forward to is SmackDown is it's Liv Morgan versus Natalya.
Yeah, maybe she gets in her face.
Maybe that's true. Let's talk about Lacey Evans.
What?
Do we have to?
Last week, because we didn't get a chance to talk about the SmackDown side of things from that, because we were talking last week instead of this week. Lacey Evans was supposed to come out there and team with Aaliyah against, was it Shayna and Shotzi? And instead they do a thing where Lacey's like, that's not a good enough reaction. I'm a heel now. Meaning all of this was just, she seems like she's a fucking heel. And then it's like, no. She's not. She is. And woof, way to fucking botch this thing again, right? I think there's 3 levels of this being pretty shit.
What? I think there's a case of botching it, but I just think realistically, people naturally don't want to get behind Lacey Evans.
Yeah, is it really a botch if...
Yeah, there's something about Lacey Evans that makes her wholly unlikable. Just for character. I'm sure she's a lovely person in real life and behind the scenes and all that stuff. But there is just something when she is on screen, whatever character she's playing, that makes her unlikable. And so she's a natural heel. She should only ever be a heel.
Is it really a botch if you're giving people what they want?
See, I think that it is a botch because I think that they could have had something. I think they just did a really poor job of setting it up. In the sense that, to go back to another analogy of just like some unrelated thing, you know, like you were talking earlier about, hey, the TV-14 thing might be a crutch, and you go, yeah, you know, you do shock value for shitty horror movies that are slasher gore porn, and then you're like, oh, this is a good horror movie because I got scared with jump scares or whatever. The right writing, you can make almost anything work. Lots of people think Captain America prior to the MCU, what a boring character. I don't like that thing. And then he's one of the most, you know, popular ones that are out there because the writing was good. People hate Superman because they think that he's boring and don't really see all these other great Superman stories that have been great where the character is just written well. I think if Lacey Evans...
People are just cheap for whatever's in front of their face.
I think that the Lacey Evans babyface turn could have worked if they didn't frame it with like 7 different vignettes of... Look, I mean, her backstory and all that stuff, I'm assuming that stuff is real. That is very much babyface material, but you're cramming it down people's throats and you're suffocating them with this kind of synthetic praise.
Hold on. If her backstory is real and people just don't care, doesn't that actually just mean that people are shitty?
Right. That's what I mean. Like, the people that would be booing something like that, they're booing for one of 2 reasons. They're not interested in this character, or they're a shitty person. Because I'm sure if that stuff is real, if you meet Lacey Evans, you know, I'm forgetting her real name, in person, that it would be like, oh, she's a sweet person. You know, I'm not going to be a dick to that. But then when the character is presented in the way that it is, it's like, I don't fucking like this character because it's dumb. I don't like it. And I think that they did a poor job, which I don't buy into the story at all that, oh, the plan was always for her to turn heel. I think that they wanted her to be a babyface. They just did a really bad job of it. And now they're trying to save face and be like, no, we planned this the whole time. The way that somebody would be being like, I planned to trip and fall on my face.
How many times people say, oh, well, we planned this. You know that
bullshit.
They're just, you know that it's bullshit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't want people to ever get away with it. Because I'll be the first to admit when I fuck something up, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I fucked it up. The end. Because I'm not going to try to act like I'm anything other than I am. Somebody goes, you know, hey, by the way, your volume levels are messed up on the podcast. Oh, it is? Oh, sorry. Messed it up. Not like, oh, I was testing levels on this one to see if you would pay attention. Fuck you. So the Lacey Evans thing, I think it was really bad. And not, of course, as bad as like the skateboard thing and all that, but that doesn't get me invested in her whatsoever. It just means Lacey Evans is going to fight Liv Morgan down the line, and I am not at all interested in seeing that fucking feud. Headlining a pay-per-view or something, right?
You think Liv Morgan gets out of SummerSlam with her belt?
I think she does.
I'll believe it when I see it.
What else happened on SmackDown? Anything else? Oh, yeah. Okay, here's one other thing. Drew McIntyre is going to fight Sheamus. Going to get a number 1 contender spot. Clash at the Castle. You know, the match that Drew McIntyre already said that he was going to have, but let's just ignore that. And then they go ready for the match, and Sheamus is like, nah, fight Butch. And McIntyre's like, okay, eat this kick. The end. What a shit ending. For Butch and for McIntyre and for Sheamus.
It was like 2 minutes long, wasn't it, that match as well?
Total squash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there another match like that as well on SmackDown?
There was apparently only 14 minutes of wrestling on the 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I think that there wasn't actually
The Vikings beat Mahal and Shanky. Nakamura beat Ludwig, and then Ludwig got punished by Gunther afterward.
Oh yeah, it was Ronda against Natalya.
Ronda and Natty, yeah, and then the Usos and Los Lotharios.
And they did Ronda and Natalya, and
that's right, because she absolutely squashes Natty. That's right.
Yeah, and the Usos absolutely squash Los Lotharios as well. Like they're literally those matches. I think about 2 minutes apiece, 2-3 minutes apiece.
Which, in fairness, I don't care about. I just hope that whatever else you have is entertaining.
But what there was
the Max Dupree thing. There was that.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Okay, I need to just ask about this because I know a lot of people are getting somewhat entertained by it, and to be fair, the segments themselves are entertaining just because of how absurd they are. But I do have to just ask this question, and maybe it's too early to be saying this, but just put it out there. What the fuck is the end goal here? Why? Just why, essentially?
Like, I assume it's a fall fashion line.
I mean, that might be right. That might be the end goal, but it's just okay. This okay. So this just takes up 10 minutes of TV on SmackDown every week, and that's the on-running goal.
They're gonna do it until people don't care about it anymore, and then they're gonna squash them, and then whatever happens happens.
Realistically, the answer is they don't have an end game. They are just saying this will be characters. Let's see what happens, because we don't think that these guys have any personality.
I'm honestly, it's one of those things as corporate as it sounds. I'm glad they're on TV. Because Dio Madden and Mansoor have been in that company for a long time, and I'm glad they're on TV.
Still think Pretty Deadly and Los Lotharios should be a part of this, but
we'll see. I think Pretty Deadly would be. Pretty Deadly are a perfect fit for this, but I almost feel like they're too good for this, just based on the first couple of weeks of this already. Because they actually have a lot of charisma and personality. Not saying that Dio and or Marseille
and
Mansoir don't, but we haven't seen them really bring that to the forefront throughout their times in WWE so far. Whereas I've basically seen Pretty Deadly in NXT UK, and what I have seen of them in NXT 2.0, they're some of the best actual characters and talkers on the entire show.
I might be the only one, but I kind of thought for that brief week or two that Paul Heyman had Dio on Raw commentating. Like, he was pretty good at that. Like, he's probably someone good to keep in the fold because he can bring a lot to the table. Obviously, we know Mansoor has the Saudi ties. But again, like, eventually they'll have to get in the ring with some hopefully local enhancement talent. Maybe they beat them and get some kind of, I can't even say get a tag title run because Usos.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's beating those fucking Usos. They got to get those belts off of the bloodline. Because, like, we have to get to a point where
the belts can actually move.
they might actually matter. Like, because this sucks. Because if you put them on the New Day, then, you can believe that maybe Mace and Mansoor will be able to beat the New Day or something. But right now, with the Usos tied to Roman, nobody's beating the bloodline.
Well, you guys ready to talk about Fyter Fest? Round this out?
Yeah.
We got Wardlow retaining the AEW TNT Championship over Orange Cassidy, which a little bit of mutual respect at the end of that. Thought it was a fun opener.
Yeah, really good match.
I'm glad they got this out of the way early. I really can't wait till Wardlow starts being tested. This is great. This is peak Orange. This is peak Wardlow. It was a fun match to watch.
What is peak Orange? Is that like Florida in like June or something?
Probably in like March.
Somebody out there knows all the specifics about Orange season. Jericho then came out to cut a promo about, hyping up the Eddie Kingston match, and he's going to bring back the Painmaker.
The Painmaker.
What did you think about the promo, Callum?
It's a good promo. It seemed being actually hyping up a match. So that's good.
Exactly. Because I saw a lot of people being like, Oh, he's so good. He's good because people want to hear your wrestlers hype the match they're going to be in and not talk about being a wizard.
To be fair, I like the wizard stuff as well. But that may just be me. But to be honest, every time I talk about the barbed wire everywhere match, it just like brings a smile to your face because it's just like, oh my god, there's just going barbed wire everywhere. And what does that mean? Is it like the announce table going to be covered in barbed wire? And
The seats,
the ring ropes, yeah, the seats made of barbed wire. All the fans going to be made of barbed wire. Is like
poor cameramen have to hold cameras that are covered in barbed wire.
Like people's headsets going to have to be made out of barbed wire. And
it's such a silly name for a match.
People used to wear chainmail back in the day. Well, no ring gear, barbed wire. Jericho this week, I think it was this week, where he was saying that he hates when people say that something was botched. And it's like, oh, why are you complaining about it, whatever.
It's so stupid. People make mistakes, yes, and sometimes in some languages, mistakes are called botches. The end.
I always use the food analogy for this when people go like, oh, why are you complaining? You've never been in the ring. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm also not a 5-star chef, but if you overcook my food, I know it's fucking overcooked. If you botch the Indy Hartwell thing, that's a botch. Now, it's a little disrespectful to be like, you fucked up, whatever. I agree on that. But like, oh, I hate the term botch. Well, you know what? Don't botch and you won't hear it. Unless you're doing a moonsault, right? We got the interim title eliminator match. I always hate the eliminator phrase, but Moxley wins that over Takeshita. I actually didn't watch it.
Had a good match. It was a great match.
I skipped it. I was running behind, and
you're not missing anything. But like, for those who want to see this kind of match, I think it was great.
Yeah, you're not missing it other than the second best match on the entire show, I'd say.
Yeah, but I know Tony doesn't care about that.
I mean, in the grand scheme, if somebody were to be like, you got to watch this, it's great, I would go back and watch it, but we're spoiled for good matches. If it's great, I'm going to go back and watch it. If it's good, there's enough good. If it's really bad, I'm going to go back and watch it, you know what I mean? Like,
I'll tell you what, it's only been a few months, but Takeshi's leading a lot of my best of the year things at the moment.
He really needs to get signed. Like, they need to just throw up the graphic of Konosuke Takeshita is all elite.
I think he needs to get signed. I think he needs to get signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling and be the new Okada.
I'm also okay with this option.
So Christian came out with Luchasaurus. They had another little thing about, hey, this guy's got a famous dad. Fuck that guy and his dad, who's dead. Yeah, with Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, and Jungle Boy comparison thing came back up again.
This one didn't land as well, but that's probably due to the fact that no one gives a shit about the Varsity Blondes.
Yep.
Poor guys, I like them, but they really haven't been having a good year.
Lost Julia Hart, got completely destroyed by the House of Black, and now they're going to get beaten up.
They're going to get destroyed, and I think they're done after that. I think they go their separate ways.
Yeah, I could see both of them falling out of AEW as well. I just think that there's too many big names, and I don't say that they're wasting their potential here, but they might need to take a step out to then come back in at a later date.
We got the Claudio and Hager match.
Better than you'd expect.
My favorite Hager match in years.
Yeah, because that is not, obviously that has nothing to do with Claudio. It's the fact that it's got Jake Hager in it, so how good can it really be? But it's actually really good.
We got a thing.
Like, Hager had the ability to be good. Yeah, I remember like there was a time where you thought Jack Swagger was going to be able to deliver some great matches. He just lived in mediocrity for so many years that it kind of just got old after a while. But this is a really fun match, and watching Claudio just do the things that he can do, it never gets old.
We got the Deeb and Anna Jay match leading into more hype for Deeb against Mercedes for the ROH women's title. It's a world women's title or women's world title or just women's title. I keep forgetting.
Since there's only one women's title, I think you can get away with saying women's title. But I think it might be women's world title.
I can't remember too much off that. I know that there's like specifics, but offhand, I don't remember. But we'll talk about that next week about predictions. I'm currently thinking Deeb wins, but when I come back around to that.
We'll see. I would like to see Deeb holding gold.
We had a Cargill promo. We got the Tycon She. Oh, I used to be your friend, Anna, and I haven't wrestled in months.
Yeah, it is quite interesting that she hasn't wrestled pretty much since getting together with Sammy. The only match they've had is that the match at the Double or Nothing.
It's weird because she was doing great. She's doing like the best work of her career, and now she's just sort of a valet.
Yeah, but she's doing a lot on. She's still featured heavily on TV, and I think that was the big point of this entire promo.
That was the whole point, yeah.
That's essentially saying, well, I'm still on TV because I'm doing all this stuff, and you need to make better choices. So now we're in a crossroads of whether you can either go Anna Jay turns her back on the Dark Order and goes with her friend Ty and turns heel, or she turns babyface and then you've got a feud between two of them. She stays babyface, you've got a feud between two of them. So there are different ways they can go, and both of them make sense. That's the usual. That's the good thing about the way AEW usually operates.
And our main event was the tag team title match, Young Bucks against Team Taz, and then against the new tag team champions, Swerve and Our Glory.
I did not expect that at all.
Neither did I.
Maybe Team Taz, but this was so cool to see Keith Lee, or especially Keith Lee, win a title, because Keith hasn't been champion since he was NXT champion. That was 2 years ago.
I went into this match going, okay, this is where Swerve and Our Glory loses and Swerve and Keith Lee split. Young Bucks end up walking away with the belts. Team Taz is like, well, we didn't get the pin, but, whatever. We're not the team that took the loss or got the win. And then the big story is Keith Lee and Swerve are fighting with each other, and that's how we end that. And instead, despite the fact that there's still some teases of that, which I don't know if I really like, that we get new champions. And again, supposedly this was the plan all along that they would whatever. I don't trust that 100%, but
no, because the plan all along was the Hardys.
Seems like that's the case more so. And there's the idea of the Young Bucks at FTR and all these titles and everything. I don't think Swerve and Our Glory being tag champs was something that was planned a while back, but they are the champions nevertheless. And I mean, I like the team. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, this was great match. First of all, for these matches, I don't know how many triple threat tags there have been, but these matches are so much fun. And to see Swerve and Our Glory get the win, especially Swerve getting the pin, and yeah, it's awesome. It feels like cool. Now there is an argument to be made, because I did see a couple people complaining about this, that it should have been Team Taz because they're AEW homegrown and not two guys who were more fresh off WWE TV. But I think that this was easily the right call.
Yeah, I think that the team's really charismatic. It really works for them. I think a lot have been hankering for this team to get tag team titles, or at least get any sort of gold. And so it was a nice swerve, if you want to call it that, because everyone just assumed that the Young Bucks were going to retain, because the story they seem to be telling is that Young Bucks are showing off to be quote unquote fighting champions, but realistically they're going into these matches in order to avoid FTR. And
I mean, the alternative idea being they just dropped them quickly because they weren't supposed to have them. Maybe they didn't want to go on a run as tag champions.
I personally think that they're going to drop the titles back to the Young Bucks at All Out. And then you'll build up towards the FTR and Young Bucks match for the gold somewhere further down the line. I think that's fine, because I think
I'd be all right with that.
Like, titles can switch hands multiple times between teams. It's like this happened all the time during, again, sort of the Attitude Era was perfect in any respect, and maybe they did treat their titles too much like hot potatoes, but at the end of the day, it helped keep the titles relevant when they were switching.
And they kept all the shows meaningful. Like, you couldn't miss a show because maybe somebody won a championship.
Yeah. We need to always get out of the mindset of just because somebody wins the title doesn't mean they should hold it for 4 to 6 months afterwards. Sometimes you have to just lose it after a month.
That being said, Swerve should not turn on Keith Lee next week.
No, that's that's definitely something that I don't believe will happen. But I kind of like the little tease in it. I don't think it was a tease of him trying to say that he was going to hit Keith Lee with the title belt. It was more of a case of Keith Lee's said in previous matches and previous interviews that he doesn't want to win matches via cheating, whereas Swerve has that kind of edge to him that he doesn't mind taking a few shortcuts. And I think he dropped the title belt to basically say, okay, we'll do it your way, and then immediately got low blowed. Just like, oh damn, that's what happens when you try and play fair.
That's life, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a great match, and they did a YouTube clip afterwards of Keith Lee dedicating that to one of his friends who's battling cancer now. So, and yeah, I think he attributed the match to that as well. So maybe that was the point where they thought, okay, we've kind of got to give the belts to these guys, because you can't really go into a match saying that you're paying homage to your friend that has cancer and lose.
And I'm glad that they can do that, because again, nothing has to be a 6-month reign, a 12-month reign, 18 months.
Again, it keeps things somewhat unpredictable. Next time that you see any kind of title match, you will just think, okay, there's a chance it can happen, because I didn't expect these titles to change hands, and they did. So maybe they'll do something different.
Nevertheless, we got another part of Fyter Fest coming up tonight with Rampage. We got SmackDown coming up, and then, we'll talk about that stuff next week if anything interesting happens. But we've got the ROH talk coming up with the next pay-per-view point. Death Before Dishonor predictions coming up on Wednesday, or maybe we record Tuesday, maybe we record Friday, Thursday. We'll figure that out. And that pay-per-view point continues with the post-show after watching that event. Hot tags in between then. And we start getting into SummerSlam after that. So we got some pay-per-view stuff coming your way. And then I think our next blank week is probably that first week of August. And I haven't quite figured out our game plan yet for that, but we are going to try to do something then. Probably the week after that, we'll have that follow-up of the mock draft so we can record that in advance. I don't know 100% what we're going to do, but if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see us do in August over the course of these next couple of weeks, so we can plan it out, drop them in the comments below, send a tweet at SmarkOutMoment, send them to me at Tony Mango, send feedback on the website, whatever it is that you want to communicate with. I don't think if you get to stand on a soapbox and just announce it to the sky, I don't think I'm going to hear it, but you could try at the very least. Funny enough, now I'm thinking about somebody just doing that. I'm like, maybe somebody out there in the world is. But whenever I pass by somebody recording something, I just see somebody with a camera or whatever, I always end up going, smarkoutmoment.com, just it's in the background and they have to edit it out. But you should do that too. It's kind of a variation of sign me up. Just spam the world with Smark Out Moment. Do it.
Don't do that.
Do it everywhere. Get a megaphone and... But do the same thing for Fanboys Anonymous. Don't just make it about Smart Guy. Check out the most recent thing on fanboysanonymous.com. I had put up a predicting the plot of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where I'm like, yeah, this is what I think the movie's going to be. I don't know much about it, but this is what I think it's going to be. And then the most recent podcast is actually from yesterday, fan tracks of Green Lantern Beware My Power. If you want to watch that movie along with us, then check that out. It's up on the site right now, up on the YouTube channel and all that, all the regular spots you can find the podcast feeds. And, if you're showing some love over the Darkcast tier, you could do the same thing with the bonus features over on Fanboys and Patreon and so on and so forth. So like and follow and favorite and subscribe and share those things there. Follow me at Tony Mango. Check out the Bleacher Report and EWN stuff that I'm working on. And just stay tuned for everything else under a Mango Tree. But also, check out what these guys have going on. Rob?
Yeah, I'm not under a mango tree, but you can find me everywhere at Dude Felice on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. And stay tuned to Fightful.com, Fightful Select, WrestleZone.com, and as always, SmarkOutMoment.com. I know I'm in the 2 most recent Triple Threat articles, and there's all that good stuff over there, including Callum's Power Rankings.
Yep. Check out smarkabout.com and go along to the power rankings. You'll find my week-to-week contribution to the website there, as well as the Fantasy League, www.fantasyleague.com. You can see all the standings, see how we're positioned currently in our own 3-man competition. And then you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister40.
Cool. That's going to do us in for this edition. We hope you enjoyed it, everybody. And we will be seeing you next time. But until then, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.